So over the past couple of days, there's been this constant question around the league on who's going to be the next face of the NBA. And for whatever reason, despite the fact that Tatum is like 25, Luka's about to turn 25, and Shea is leading a very young OKC team, no one cannot fathom who's going to be able to do this. Oh my God.
I would say Shea, Ant-Man. I feel like those are two of the guys, that can continue the torch. After I'm done, after Steph, KD, the guys that have just been setting the standard for so many years.
There's a lot of guys to pick from in this group of 24 that are here. You see Luka, Ant, Shea, guys that are like really coming into their prime and are highly decorated already as all-stars and all-NBA guys.
When LeBron retires, the face of the league, that's tough. But we win a championship. I got something to say about it. I know that.
Yeah, I don't understand why this is a conversation. Jason Tatum is 24, 25 or something like that. I think maybe 25, 26. But he's in his mid-20s on the best team in the NBA, and somehow this is a conversation. Low-key, if I'm JT, I would feel so slighted because it's like, it's me, nigga. It's me. You asking me who's going to be the next face of the NBA when I'm in my mid-20s on the best team in the league right now. My nigga, are you serious? That's so disrespectful. It's me, nigga.
So we're saying once LeBron, Steph, and KD is out of the way, who's going to be the new face? Everybody, you know what? If you listen, a lot of the guys keep bringing Ant because he has the game and he has I believe not only does he have the game, he has the most personality. He doesn't take himself too serious, but his game is very serious. I like JT. I like what he had to say. He's like, hey, I win a championship. I'm going to have something to say about that face of the league. And it's been a long time since we had a face of the league that was the Boston Celtics. We got to go back to Larry Bird when him and Magic occupied that mantle together before Jordan took those thrones. Man.
Bro, you would have, the way that this nigga is beating around the bush, you would have not have thought that there was a 24-year-old player in Dallas right now that is performing at all-time heights. I think Shea's like 25 or something like that, mid-20s player in OKC who is also playing at an MVP level, who is leading one of the better teams in the NBA. You would also not believe that Tatum exists and there are so many other players in their mid-20s that are on really good teams or playing really, really well that this conversation shouldn't be that difficult. There's a reason why it is, though, but it shouldn't be that difficult at all, actually.
Will it ever be a situation where we have a foreign-born player that is the face of the NBA, a Luka, a Nikola Jokic, or must it be? Now, I understand the game is...
No, answer, and that's the question right there. That's the question. That's the question.
Global now. It's not like it was in the 80s when you only had one or two foreign-born players in the NBA. So if you put me to the test right now, I like Ja, but I think Ja's going to need to stay out of his own way. But I would say it's going to be between Ant-Man and Jason Tatum because I like Jason Tatum's game. I think he has enough personality. He's not as charismatic outwardly as, say, Ant-Man. But if you make me pick one, I'm going to say Ant-Man, followed closely by Jason Tatum.
I will say this, the charisma does come along with it as well, because I think the charisma of LeBron and Curry, I think that's also part of the reason why KD doesn't get put in these conversations as much. Same with Tim Duncan, Dirk. They didn't get put in the conversations as much as Kobe and Shaq, Magic, Michael, even Bird's personality, though it wasn't there, I think he had a lot of push because of actually, that's a really great idea. That's a really great thought. Bird didn't really have that great of a personality, but we still found a way to make him the face of the NBA. But Bird also, I think he still had a personality that was still relatable to an extent. I think probably the biggest problem with some of these players is they may not be as relatable, or they may not have been as marketable. They don't have as much personality. They don't go out their way to make themselves seen as much as other people have. And I do believe that comes along with being the face of the NBA. But also, to make sure that we know their personality, they have to be marketed correctly and they have to be talked about a lot, which doesn't happen too often, but we'll continue.
I don't believe it's going to be one, to be honest with you. I don't believe that I could just pinpoint and say that I could pick one of these guys to be the face of the league. After LeBron James then carried the torch for so many years, when Jordan passed the torch to him, I just don't see that particular...
I think he made a mistake. He meant Jordan passed the torch to Kobe, and then Kobe, then LeBron. Again, I want to be very clear. There's never, ever, ever been a 24-year-old that looks as good as Luka, who is dominant as Luka, and we sit here and say, oh, I don't know. I don't think I see anybody at all. I don't think I see anyone. We know this nigga perk.
And I'm sorry, because you could say Anthony Edwards And right, he has the personality, he has the game, but he is in a small market. I don't believe that he's even top 20 right now in jersey sales. But that says a lot, right? You got Jason Tatum, who has the game, he has the market. You know, I believe he's top 5 in jersey sales right now, but he needs a little bit more personality. He's still shying away from the camera. Then you have SGA, right? And you have SGA down there putting in work in OKC. But think about it, that's a small market. Even when Russell Westbrook was down there winning MVPs, putting up triple doubles, no one was screaming Russ being the face of the league. Kevin Durant led the league in scoring, 3 years down in OKC with an MVP? No one was screaming. Okay, no one was screaming that. And it's just going.
But nobody was screaming that because they were playing in the same era as LeBron. That's a huge reason why. But they were still marketable enough to where if LeBron didn't exist, I would have a hard time believing that trying to push Russ wouldn't be that difficult. Trying to push KD wouldn't be that difficult. They just weren't the face in the NBA because they also played with LeBron. And also, I don't think the market, I understand what he's saying though, but I don't think the market makes as much as a difference as he's trying to make it seem, because I do believe in social media, everybody is accessible to really anyone. And the way that they do TV deals now, you don't necessarily have to be in LA or New York or Boston to be seen at any level of frequency. That's an ideology of yesteryear. Today's game is certainly much more different. So I don't agree with that. But also, and let me also be clear, even though the Warriors, that is a bigger market, the Warriors as a franchise was not really known to the extent that it is now until Curry came along. So you can have the right player that pushes things over the bar. To be fair, I think Curry, in many regards, the type of charisma that he has is a bit different from everybody else. So that's fair. But I don't believe that the market is as much as the issues Perkins make it out to be.
And it's just going to be so hard for a foreign player to be the face of the league, because I'm walking up into these AAU gyms every single Saturday with my sons, and no one's checking for a Giannis, no one's checking for a Jokic. You know what I mean? They screaming Anthony Edwards, they screaming Jason Tatum, they screaming Ja Morant. So I just don't see either one of those guys being above the rest to put a face on it to say that they're going to be the next face of the league. I just don't see it.
Well, to be fair, Jokic and Giannis, yes. But again, not to bring up Luka is ridiculous. When Luka got more all-star votes from a fan perspective than any other guard in the Western Conference, that's including Shea and Curry. And Luka has been top 5 or top 6 in jersey sales consistently throughout the first 4 or 5 years of his career. To not say Luka is interesting, especially when Luka's in the middle of a historic tear. These niggas are doing a historically bad attempt at their jobs. Because what their jobs are supposed to be doing is pushing the new faces of the NBA. I promise you, I cannot. There will never, ever be a point in time where a 24-year-old could be in the middle of the run that Luka's in right now, putting up 73 points, triple-double every other fucking night, putting up ridiculous historic numbers, and you sit here and you don't even bring up his name when talking about this stuff. Are you crazy? Are you dumb? It's your job to push these niggas.
I threw out the name SGA because his game is just so pure and he's unassuming and he does what he does as a basketball player. Night in and night out, whatever you expect from him is what he gives you. And the one thing we look for is the stardom, the star power, the stardom in terms of your ability to perform on the court. The second thing we look for is consistency. The third part is where he loses because of marketability, because he doesn't say much, okay?
Exactly.
I looked at Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards, and I'm doing the All Access in Minnesota this Friday, so I'll be there all day. Looking forward to seeing him. I came on the air weeks ago, raving.
Thank God. Shout out to Stephen A. Because Stephen A. Smith is actually doing what he's supposed to be doing. Going out to Minnesota, talking to a young up-and-coming superstar, getting some exclusive content from him, spreading it out, using his platform to push it as much as possible so people can become familiar with who these people are. Shout out to Stephen A. Because that's literally what you're supposed to be doing. That's what everybody else got before. Shout out to Stephen A.
Again, I came on the air this a few weeks ago raving about Anthony Edwards because his athleticism is off the charts. I love how he's going after it. I think that he's got that level of moxie and what have you, and he's got Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert looking better than ever because he just has infused that quote-unquote dog in them and in that franchise. And I love that about him. And I loved his personality. I loved him in the movie Hustle with Adam Sandler, who, by the way, won the People's Choice Awards last night. My daughter had me watching that. Congratulations to my daughter Nyla had me watching that. I was watching People's Choice Awards last night, flipping back and forth between that and the All-Star game. And I'm looking at all of this stuff. Then I said, guess what, Perk? Anthony Edwards, respectfully, boy, did you mess up. What are you doing stepping on the court last night amongst the stars and playing around shooting left-handed for?
What Stephen A. Smith is talking about the All-Star game, and he's right, or All-Star weekend on the skills challenge, and he's right. I do believe Anthony Edwards missed a really, really big opportunity. And regardless if he does or doesn't care about it at all, you still take those moments and opportunity to take that next leap, to make your name be known, as well as the Minnesota Timberwolves, to try to put them on the map by utilizing the All-Star weekend to make your name bigger than what it already is. And I wholeheartedly do agree with Stephen A. Smith. Anthony Edwards missed out on the opportunity to take that next leap. I wholeheartedly believe that.
There's a new sheriff in town. Remember that? Mm-hmm. That's what Anthony Edwards was supposed to do yesterday. It was a moment like that where you're there for the first time and you're surrounded by these other dudes. You're supposed to be staking the claim that it's the new breed. The new breed has arrived, and I want it. Because part of marketability is showing you want to be marketed. Like you really, really want to be that dude, night in and night out.
Serious.
You see, when Kobe shot air balls, you know why? People might have insulted him but didn't condemn him. They knew what he was shooting for. He was like, that dude Jordan, I'm coming for that. As the face of the NBA, what you need to see is somebody that wants that. And what we're not seeing, Shannon and Perk, is who's the dude that wants that? Not the ball. Now, we know you can game, you can ball. I'm talking about all the other stuff, Shannon, all the other stuff, Perk, that comes with it. Who really, really wants that? They bring up Victor Wembanyama. They bring up Luka. Of course, Giannis don't want to train with the competition. He's trying to take you out, and we love that. But what you want to see is a guy that really wants to carry the mantle of being the marquee.
I agree with what Stephen A. Smith said in totality, but I do want to say this again. Larry Bird took a similar approach where he was more professional, more serious, wasn't really too caught up in the glitz and glams, and people still found a way to market him. Same with Kareem, and to an extent as well. I don't think Kareem was the most marketable, but they still found a way to market him. So I do believe there's a way to market a player who doesn't necessarily have that type of appeal, but there's other ways to push them, because I do believe there's a way to push Anthony Edwards and Luka without having them to like accept all the other shenanigans that come along with being that guy or being the face of the NBA. Shout out to Kobe, shout out to Curry, shout out to Shaq, and definitely Shaq, because Shaq loved the limelight. Shout out to LeBron, shout out to MJ as well. Shout out to Magic. Magic also loved the limelight as well. I think there are great players who took along that role and responsibility, not only from a player perspective, but also as like, you know, all the other stuff that came along with it. But I don't think it's necessary. The media has done an egregiously bad job at promoting who's supposed to be the next player. And I've said this so many times. The next face of the NBA existed, but the reality is that the media members, they pick the wrong players almost every single year, and instead of making the right move and pivoting from another player once the original player failed, pushing and pushing and pushing the same players that were consistently failing them. What I mean by that, if we go back through some of these draft classes, go back to 2014. The two faces that was really supposed to take over, at least two of the three, Andrew Wiggins and Jabari Parker, both of them failed. And while Jabari Parker failed, I think in a bit more instantaneously type of effect, Wiggins was on path of failing, and instead of pivoting to someone else, we're cramming it in. We're going to try to make this work. Even though it's not working, we're going to try to make this work. It's going to work now. He's going to be the face of the NBA. They forced that for like 3 to 4 years. While that was happening, who got drafted in this draft class? You guessed it. Nikola Jokic. Mum's the word. No one said nothing about him. So then when it's time to where we are today, when everybody should be aware of who Jokic is as a player, we don't know about him. Now, to be fair, Jokic doesn't really care, but we have not even pushed him. They didn't market him. There was no news or buzz around him. Even over the past 2 years, when Jokic was on the rise, when he was transcending, when he was looking like an all-time great player, instead of marketing and pushing him, what we saw was media members degrade him. Oh, he only received MVP votes because, white people vote for him. Oh, he ain't all that good. I mean, I think Jimmy Butler is about as good as him or Devin Booker. So the player that was next up, the player that was dominating, even when he gave you evidence and proof that he was about to be dominant, you ignored him. Same way that these niggas is doing right now with Luka. We move on to the next season. The players that were going to take over, Karl Anthony Towns, D'Lo, and Jahlil Okafor. Pushed them. The player who actually stood out the most was Devin Booker, 13th overall pick. Even when Booker was showing you glimpses that he was really great at basketball. Oh, those numbers are just inflated. Those are inflated numbers. He's a good player putting up great stats on a bad team. That's not impressive. 2017, Markelle Fultz, Lonzo Ball. You and I both know how much the media was pushing Lonzo Ball. I hope, Lonzo, you get better. We miss you. But when he was coming in the NBA, oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. The talk around town, Lonzo was at all-time highs. Jason Tatum was in that draft class. And nobody really talked about JT until the last year or two. So here we now have Tatum, who's already seen a lot of success, been a great player, but nobody really talks about him. But we were pushing routinely over and over and over again. Lonzo, another player in that draft that got overlooked, Donovan Mitchell. To this day, they don't push or talk about Donovan Mitchell. To this day. So in my opinion, I think that's also a much bigger problem. I've never in my life seen where we are right now in NBA history where there are legitimately great players who are 25 and younger, and we're having a hard time trying to establish who's the next face of the NBA. I've never understood that. And in particular with Luka Doncic, never. There's never, ever been a player 24 years old that looks as good as Luka, and we question about who's the next face of the NBA. He may not be as marketable as LeBron or Kobe or Curry or Shaq or MJ. He may not be as charismatic as Magic, but he definitely has the game. He definitely has the moxie, he has the grit. You could clearly see he wants it, he has a determination, and he's a treat to watch and play basketball. I've never seen that before though. But yo, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know who you believe is the next face of the NBA. And until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.